There's another thing that I'm really excited about is that the American Solidarity Party represents an idea, an ability to redefine how we do politics and governing in the United States. So when we say things like the common good, one of the problems that the Republicans and Democrats get into is that they get elected and then they're constantly locked in this kind of battle with one another. And they're not really about taking ownership. I mean, there was a meme that we had going around where we were comparing different Lord of the Rings characters to kind of how people end up, how, people think they're Aragorn, they, as they run for office, I think they said, they kind of act like Faramir. People tend to see them as Boromir maybe, and then in reality they're Denethor. Well, the issue with the stewards of Gondor, so let's be nerds for a moment, because a lot of us in the American Solidarity Party are nerds. The real issue with the stewards, and it's what I think, and Patrick is trying to contain himself right now, and I think it's really the issue with the Democrats and Republicans, is that what made the stewards bad is that they never actually took ownership of Gondor. They preserved it as it was, but they didn't act like the king would have, which is to do new things, to advance a new agenda, to try to change things, to reform the system. They just kept it going, almost froze it in stasis, because it wasn't really theirs. They were just a stand-in. For generations, they were just a stand-in. That's Republicans and Democrats right now. They don't really take ownership of the problems in the United States. It's not just President Trump not taking responsibility. They're all not taking responsibility. They're all failing to look at the real problems that face us. There was a question, is there a wedge issue that would affect politics today in the way, say, slavery did for the Republican Party when it overtook the Whig Party? I think there's actually really 5 wedge issues that are not being dealt with. One of which is automation. No one's really looking at how automation is going to transform work in America and what that's going to mean for the future of the working class, what that's going to mean for the future of the kind of immigrants that will be able to come to the United States and find work. The environmental equity that we talk about a lot as a party is really a football that Democrats and Republicans play with. It's not seriously considered as something that deals with, that crosses color lines, class lines, the impact on the environment, whether it has to do with water resources, whether it has to do with clean air, whether it has to do with climate change. All of that really does get kind of shunted to the side and not dealt with as seriously as it really could have. Then we also deal with the concentration of wealth. The concentration of wealth, which prevents us from having the kind of investment we need in our resources, in our infrastructure, in our schools, within our communities, the way that capital is being concentrated, then it can't be invested because people have more money than they know what to do with. That's a real problem for our society, and it's going to hurt our innovation in the future because a few firms aren't really going to come up with the innovation we need in the future because there's not enough brains working on it. It's too concentrated. Then we have to deal with freedom of conscience, that people in the United States need to be free to disagree and remain neighbors, and to not have that be something that we're contentiously fighting over as to whether or not people really have freedom of conscience and freedom of belief in this country. And then the final major wedge issue that we have to deal with as a country that's not being dealt with is going to be healthcare. Yes, you had the Affordable Care Act, which had all sorts of problems in it and was basically supporting the insurance companies while pretending not to. And then the Republicans have had a decade to come up with a solution and have not. Those are the issues we have to look at. But where ASP can even go beyond those, and where I'm really excited, is that we begin to create a politics of governing, and even in the nonpartisan races. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of things we focus on: running for House, running for the Senate, running for the presidency. But down at the local level, we have commissions, we have school boards. The ASP can become the centerpiece of a new movement of ideas generated by the American people, where what we're doing is we're reimagining how school boards function. It's a nonpartisan race, but the party becomes a center where people come together. So you can have party affinity groups. It's nonpartisan, but you can have the ASP school board or school association as part of the party, and where people who are interested in the kind of governing that goes on in a school board coalesce together, and then they coordinate going for different school board races across the country, and they bring a different philosophy to how to run our schools and to make our students more competitive with the world, because that's who they're competing with right now and will be for the rest of the 21st century. And our students are falling behind, and they're going to find that our economy won't be able to keep up in 10 years because we're not producing the workers and the innovators who are able to match what's being produced overseas. Then you have to deal with what Brian was talking about: resources and soil and energy. So there's a lot of nonpartisan commissions that govern those resources. They govern water in different counties and regions. They govern electricity. Get people together who care about those issues, organize within the party, and then start going for those races. A lot of these are appointed, and that means lobbying your local government and your state legislature to get people appointed to these positions who will then make these decisions as citizens. But this party can be the place where they come together and organize not just for partisan electoral races, but for holding the offices that are going to be necessary to actually move America forward in all these different commissions, whether it's heritage and people are arguing over history. We have ASP people who care about that, organize them, get a philosophy, get an idea behind it, and then start getting appointed to different heritage boards so that you can come up with a way to introduce history and preserve history for future generations of Americans on the basis of our proposals for really a common good in a country that's welcoming to all Americans and that's built for all Americans. That's where we go beyond the two major parties and we become the true party of government, not just electoral politics, but the party of administering a common good whole life society. Sure, so one thing I'd like to say, which is that this is just the end of the first part of the beginning of the party's history. This has been a big coming out party for us as the part of the election, with more people learning about us, a lot of good media attention, a lot of celebrity and thinker attention. People who have taken a chance on us to cast their vote for Brian and for Amar, people who have wanted to feel good for the first time in a long time about casting their vote, need to know that we will be here tomorrow, that this is not just a runoff for us. We have done what we intended to do. We spread the word, and now we need you to become our advocates. The thing you can do for us, for the party, is to let your friends and neighbors know why you voted for the American Solidarity Party, why you feel good about voting for us, and how you can share that feeling by running for office yourself, or helping a petition drive to get people on the ballot, recruiting people who you know are already office holders who are feeling screamless about their current party and are perhaps looking for a home, and getting people to flip and to switch and join. And that's often how this has happened in American history, where current office holders will say, you know what, I'm going to join this new party because it actually gives me the vehicle and the voice to say how I truly feel and to really represent my constituents and be true to the values that I want to promote for my community, because I live here and I love this place, and the two major parties aren't doing what our community needs. That's tomorrow. So that's what I want to leave people with, is tomorrow, the real work, the hard work begins, of showing that we have staying power and that we're not going anywhere. And this is not a fluke. The only way up is to keep working. And so we're going to work our way up every single day after this. And I want to thank everyone who has joined the party, who has supported the party, who took a chance, who resisted all the nonsense about throwing away your vote and decided that this is where they belonged. Everyone who felt that they were politically homeless or were told they're politically homeless, and who said, no, actually, I found a place. Well, let's make this place bigger for everyone else.